Hello there, right here, and today we have a new experimental snapshot for 1.18. This is Minecraft 1.18 experimental snapshot number 2. And holy moly, did they change things. Pretty much every single thing that we addressed in the first experimental video, they went ahead and changed it in this newest one. And in this video, I will be covering every single new thing and talk a little bit how it will impact your gameplay. I'm also so close to 300,000 subscribers, so if you haven't already, hit that button as well as the bell to get notified on future videos as well. Now, if you haven't seen the major changes for 1.18 yet, make sure to watch my review video, which I'll link down below, because this video will just cover the changes from that one. The first change they did is they made the biomes a lot smoother and less noisy, meaning that we would see less of those really micro biomes that we've seen in the last one. So just glancing around, you kind of see the biomes smoothly move from one to the next, and they are a bit larger overall, and they're not like fragmented into itty bitty biomes all by themselves. The next thing they did is they raised the default cloud level all the way up from 128, which used to be right around this level here, to now 192, which puts them much above the mountain biomes. They also changed the biome names of the old biomes, which used to be called mountains, and then reverted their name back to be called the extreme hills, like they used to be called. So if we just go ahead and head over there, these are ones you're familiarized from the past, where they could be snowy tops. There's also different variations of them, but the main one was called extreme hills. They also changed the gravelly mountain biome to be called now gravelly hills, and this is what they look like. And this was mostly done just to prevent people from confusing the extreme hills with the new mountain biomes. Next, they changed beaches. They made them much wider, so they actually look like a real beach. And you can see they're pretty cool. They got some over here. We also got some over here. Kind of big chunks of sand in front of different biomes. So these aren't like deserts. These are actual beaches. We got some turtles on there. And they also made places where there isn't beaches, so they're not like too overwhelming. Meadows also got changed, so now sheep can spawn inside of them. They also reduce the spawns on donkeys and increase rabbits spawning in this biome. You also notice we have some dead bushes here. But they also removed the orchid flowers from this biome, so now once again you can only find them in a swamp biome. Also, meadows will no longer be treeless. There's a chance of having a lone tree in them. And these guys will often have a bee nest, which makes a lot of sense since there is a lot of flowers here and bees would just love it. And for swamps, they also made it so that they will now generate in normal locations instead of weird ones like we've seen in the last one. Now in the last experimental snapshot, some biomes weren't present, like the ice spikes biome, and now they're once again in the game. Another one of these biomes that was missing in the last one was the Eroded Badlands, and now we have it once again in the game. Now, as I shown in the last video, these lush biomes underground were sometimes leaking onto the surface, making huge chunks of the biome appear being the lush caves. This is now changed so that it's less likely for underground biomes to interfere with the surface biomes, but it can still happen, just very rare. They also toned down the mega cave entrances, like this one here, so you're less likely to find a huge opening that will take you deep into the caves, because it was too easy for people to just drop down and get all the way down to the deep slate level, and were easily acquiring diamonds from that location. They also made cheese caves a little bit smaller on average, but you can still find some really big ones if you look. But it's less likely that these guys will intersect with the surface of the world. Now, one of the new features of 1.18 are these mega ore veins. There's copper variations and there's also iron variations. But what they did with this second experimental snapshot is they made them slightly larger as well as more frequent. That way people are more likely to find them while they're in survival. And they go into the surrounding blocks, so if you follow them you can get tons of iron or copper. If you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to leave a like on it. Now, since the world does go higher, they also made it so some biomes have peaks that can go as high as 220 or up to 260 Y level. This one here is 234. But having such things so high is rare. So if you guys find a really high one, let me know. This is really exciting as we can now see structures that are kind of like the amplified worlds, almost use the entire height of the Minecraft game. Now there was some people saying that the ground was just way too hilly on average, so they also increased the chance of having kind of nice flat areas. So it's not just all completely hills or mountains. Now in the last snapshot, there wasn't any hostile mobs or pretty much any mobs spawning in these new mountain type of biomes, but now mobs are able to spawn in this biome. They also made it so that in all of these mountain biomes, emeralds will now generate inside of them. And also, infested stone blocks will also generate. These are the blocks that have silverfish inside of them. And using this X-ray texture, you can easily see the infested blocks as well as the emeralds, which I have blinking. They also said that now structures will generate mostly in the correct locations. Here you can see a village, but I also did notice that there is a desert temple, which is way underneath of the ground, but it's definitely a lot better than it was in the first experimental snapshot. Now they also made it so that there's less likely for sand to immediately fall upon being generated into the game. So now they're going to add in more sandstone to support sand as well as stone to support gravel, because before huge chunks of sand and gravel were falling during generation, which was really slowing the game down. But you can still find some floating sand and gravel throughout the world. Now in my last video I talked a lot about monster spawners and how they pretty much just copied the same kind of spawning algorithm as the mob that's inside them, which is typically good, but there are some really weird circumstances that I showed, like drowned spawners only working under certain Y levels and other weird things like that. So they went ahead and decided to change spawners because of that. So now spawners have some new rules. If we go ahead and look at the data for this spawner here, they have a new rule which is called custom spawn rules. This tag lets you override the spawn rules of the spawn mob. In the tag, you can specifically do the block light limit, which indicates the highest block light the spawner will spawn mobs at. And they said that this change is to enable map makers to use spawners for more customization when spawning in mobs at any light levels they choose. But they also made a change which applies to survival, and that is zombies, skeletons, spiders, and cave spider spawners will now be able to spawn mobs up to a block light level of 11. In the last snapshot, they would not spawn whatsoever, even if there's a light level as low as 1. It had to be absolutely dark, being 0. But now with this change, you can see these guys are still spawning in with a torch placed right here in the center. And if I turn my smooth lighting to off and turn my night vision off, you can kind of see how the light propagates from the torch. And if you go over here to like this corner, there's only a light level of 8 or 9, meaning that mobs can spawn in here still. When before, this would prevent any zombies from spawning in the spawner. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, the light changes that they made to mob spawning didn't really affect mob farms or mob spawner farms, and this change that they did with spawners where now mobs can spawn with a light level of 11 even with spawners isn't really going to change the game that much either. Just going to make you have to place in a few more torches when you're in survival. So having a layout of lights like this will prevent mobs from spawning inside of most spawner configurations, but keep in mind they can still spawn if there's openings like this. So overall, it's just going to take quite a bit more light to stop them from working. Now, all these changes are going to be for 1.18 or the Caves and Cliffs update part 2. But we are currently still in the experimental snapshots, and for these they don't actually have a place to even report bugs because they're so experimental. They know that there's bugs and they don't want to just be flooded. But eventually there will be normal snapshots for 1.18 as we've seen in the past, and they predict that they will start coming out with 1.18 snapshots around September of 2021. Now, as I said, they do know that there is some known issues, and these include opening up old experimental worlds will cause an error, so you just need to open up a new one. You also can't play in any old Minecraft version in these currently, but they will be made so that you can eventually update your worlds to these versions, just like 1.17. They are aware that there's currently low performance for this version, and they will deal with that later on. They're also aware that the nether terrain is messed up, as well as that the end pillars do not generate unless you regenerate them using ender crystals. They're also aware of this known issue where aquifers meet the surface of things and can cause these ugly coastlines. They're also aware that it's hard to find red sand as most of the Badlands come out as being these plateaus where there's not much sand on top of them. It's really cool to see that they address a lot of the things that I talked about in the previous video. and they are continuing to look for feedback, which you can give on their feedback website or on this Reddit post, and I'll have those linked down below. Now with this second experimental snapshot, they did kind of fix all the major problems that they wanted to, and they said they probably won't have a new snapshot for a few more weeks, but the final release for 1.18 is probably still scheduled for around Christmas this year. If you guys do find anything cool in this latest snapshot, make sure to tell me about it and also send me coordinates as well as the seed of it. You can also send it to me on my Discord, which consists of a whole community that are excited about the newest changes in the game. So if you haven't already joined my Discord, you can find the link down below. I'm really excited for 1.18 and I hope you guys are too. The developers are doing such an amazing job at keeping this game interesting and fun, even after 12 years. As always, be sure to share this video with others, let them know what's all going on, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!